Hi everyone, I'm Yara. I'm an associate producer on Dead Space 3 and you're watching Eurogamer.
Hey guys, Ian from Eurogamer here, and I've been noticing a lot of chatter over the interwebs accusing Dead Space 3 of trying to rip off Lost Planet thanks to its recent demo, which featured tons of snow and a big old monster with orange shooty bits, which, to be fair, is totally Lost Planet. But fear not, sci-fi horror fans, I had the good fortune of travelling to London recently, where I got to play the first 2 hours or so of the game during a special press preview event, and guess what? None of it was set on the frostbitten planet, and it felt and played just like the Dead Space games we all know and love. Except there were some new features for crate-hating, corpse-stomping space engineer Isaac Clarke to try out this time around, so I asked the associate producer on the game, Yara Cowrie, to tell me exactly what they were.
Dead Space 3 has a lot of new cool features. First of all, it's got a fully featured drop-in drop-out co-op, which will let you play the entire campaign with a friend. The other new big addition to Dead Space 3 is our weapon crafting system. You are going to explore the world of Dead Space 3 and find resources and weapon parts that when you go back to the bench you can assemble together and create your very own unique weapon, which is something that we're really excited about. And then we also have some answers about the story and the questions that people had about Dead Space. You know, our lore is pretty complex and people want to know a little more about the markers and the necromorphs and the dementia effects that affects our characters. And so with Dead Space 3 we made it a point to answer some of these questions.
So this is how he knew we'd be out all day.
I do love how deep the Dead Space lore is, with its animated movies, graphic novels, and I remember just before the launch of Dead Space 2, you guys released Dead Space Ignition for the Xbox Live Arcade and PSN, which nicely bridged the gap between the first and second games, earning those who completed it some nice bonuses for use in Dead Space 2. Will there be anything like that for dedicated fans to sink their teeth into this time?
We don't have any pre-game to Dead Space 3. We however have a graphic novel, Liberation, that introduces Carver, our brand new character, to our players, and I think it shows our will to really integrate him as a integrate part to our universe. He's got a very interesting backstory, he's a very interesting individual, and so we're really excited to introduce him and tell our players a little more about his story.
Another worry people have about Dead Space 3 is the introduction of co-op and how it will affect the isolated horror aspect of the game. Horror games just aren't as scary if you have someone there to hold on to as you play them, so I was very surprised to see that when I was playing in solo mode, it doesn't feel like a co-op game at all. It just feels like a normal Dead Space game, and I presume that Carver would be an NPC following Isaac around for the entire game, blocking doorways and getting stuck on walls in that lovable way that NPCs do. But he wasn't. Why?
We did not want to have an AI follower in Dead Space 3. It was very important from us from the get-go to preserve the single-player experience that people have come to enjoy and expect from the Dead Space franchise. So when you're playing single-player, it's the same single-player experience, a classic gameplay experience that you've had in Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2. Carver at that point is more of a secondary character. You're going to cross his path throughout the game, still going to learn about him, but he's not a main character. However, when you play co-op, if you have a friend jumping into your game, if you allow him to, then you're going to learn more about him, and of course he's going to be with you and fighting on your sides.
So how does the overall experience change once the co-op starts? What happens when you go from solo to co-op mid-game?
Carver! Clarke! How the hell did you... Never mind! Come on, we're in... Oh, shit!
So you get to explore the same universe, it's the same campaign, but the story kind of diverges a little bit. In co-op, you're going to get to learn a lot more about Carver as a character, and you get also access to side missions that you would not get access to in single player. So you do have quests that are specific to the co-op, but mainly the story remains the same with some divergences between single player and co-op.
I was playing the game, another developer told me the best way to play Dead Space 3, if you want to get the most out of it, was to complete it once in solo, then start a new co-op game in New Game Plus mode, so you can find out all the extra parts about Carver and experience the whole story. Which sounds sensible. Now, could you tell us a little bit more about Carver, and how the spooky necromorph-making marker affects him, and in turn the co-op experience?
Carver is kind of new to the marker thing. You know, he is experiencing the dementia effects that makes him, you know, completely paranoid. He's having visions just as like Isaac was having in Dead Space 2. And so this will bring something really new to co-op in general, and makes our co-op experience so unique, which is Carver is going to see things in the world that Isaac is not seeing. And, you know, Carver started wondering, am I crazy? What is going on here? He's got his own inner demons. You know, his family has been taken by the necromorphs. And so all these things are coming back to him, just the same way that, you know, Isaac's ex-wife was coming back to him in his visions. And so you're going to experience these things in co-op, and it's going to be very interesting to see how Isaac and Carver at that point interact, and how it's going to also impact our gameplay mechanics.
One thing that worries me about co-op is that I may miss out on vital story elements for Carver if I play in co-op as Isaac, and vice versa. Should I be worried, or am I being silly?
When you are player 2, you play Carver. But when you're player 1 and you play Isaac, you also see what's going on with Carver, and you can also talk with your player. So it's not like only Carver experiences these things. Isaac is by his side, and so he also gets to see those things through, you know, chat with your partner, etc. So the co-op experience will give a lot more exposure to Carver, no matter who you're playing.
Another big change to the game is the revamped weapon system. Could you give us an overview on what that means to the player?
We have evolved our weapon system, and now players are allowed to craft their own unique weapons. And something that is really cool with that new weapon system is that you get to attach 2 different guns to one single weapon, whereas before each gun had only one type of, you know, fire. Now with our new weapon crafting system, you get to attach 2 different guns to one single weapon. So it really allows for way more strategy. You can, for example, imagine to have a precision gun on top that will enable you to target very specific points on the necromorphs, and a shorter but wider range weapon on the bottom, such as, you know, a grenade launcher or a flamethrower. So it's really cool, and we can't wait to see how players use it and play with it. And yeah, it's a really cool feature.
While playing the game, I spotted some new necromorphs, including what looked like a suicide bomber necromorph and what I've decided to call a necro doggy, a mutated dog which acts very much like the babies from the previous games. Could you tell us about any other new enemies that we'll be delimbing?
One of the new enemy that is kind of a team favorite is the Waster. His particularity is that he transforms as you dismember his limbs. Tentacles are going to emerge from his body from where you dismembered him, and it's going to change his behavior. And from a close range enemy, he becomes, for example, a long range enemy, because now he shoots projectiles at you from his tentacles. You're also going to find all the necromorphs that you've come to love within our franchise. So the slashers, the lurkers, the leaper are all back with new skinning, and so they look brand new and they're really awesome. Another big new addition are the new human enemies, you know, these unitologist fanatics that are totally after you and your power to create and destroy the markers.
Finally, Yara, seeing as you've worked in this universe for a while now, if one day you woke up and there was a full-on Dead Space-style necromorph invasion of Earth, would you be able to cope with it like Isaac, or would you freak out and be one of the first to go?
Give me a plasma cutter, I'll get on it.
Nice. I'll stick with you in that case then, because if I was on my own, I'd probably just curl up into a ball and cry like a baby until a necromorph ate my face off. So, my final thoughts on Dead Space 3. The big new addition, the co-op, doesn't seem to have changed the game that much at all. Played solo, you'd probably never know there was a co-op mode at all as far as I can tell, so people looking for solo scares will not be disappointed at all. While what I played didn't seem as scary as the previous games, I put that down to the fact that I know what's what with the universe. A bit of series fatigue, I guess, as I'm used to the Necromorphs now, and I could anticipate and predict their attacks. Plus, I think that because I was at a busy preview event and wasn't sat on my own with headphones on playing the game in the dark, it did slightly dampen the atmosphere. But it's still got the jump scares, and it's still got the epic audio production, and it's still every bit as cinematic as the previous games, so I can't wait to play the full game when it's released in February, and see if Dead Space 3 really does live up to the standards set by the rest of the games in the franchise. Stay tuned to Eurogamer by clicking the annotation that's just popped up and giving us a subscribe, because there's loads more exclusive gaming content on the horizon, including more Dead Space 3 videos and a live Let's Play closer to release. Higton out. That was me making a space radio sound. Yeah.